Examples of digital programs that you would like to talk about or showcase at your
Yeah,
organization?
I think, there are several that I would highlight, and I would kind of back it up to a higher level for us. As I mentioned earlier, Chip, our CEO, has really been very much driving for transformation, but I think a supporting function there is really innovation writ large. And AI kind of fits into that innovation model as well. So we have really begun to create an entire innovation program for all of RH, where we have really two parts of that program. The first is focused on internal performance improvement,
Mm-hmm.
transformation, and innovation. But then we're coupling that with an accelerator program to actually take some of those innovations to market and to also partner with other startups to bring them back into RH. We're doing this in a very prescriptive and deliberate way, ensuring it's aligned with our strategy. So
Mm-hmm.
where we have opportunities, where we have challenges, we're trying to line up those companies that may actually fit and help us solve some of those niche problems. I'll give you a really good example of this. Healthcare is currently experiencing, I think, a drop off in employees. We certainly have a challenge maintaining staffing. Nurses, I think, nursing is really the most acute area where we see that. But we're
Mm-hmm.
also in this perfect storm where demand is just increasing at a remarkable rate. So that gap between supply and demand, the only reasonable way to think about it, closing that gap, is through technologies as much as we can. You mentioned AI, and we talked about ADS, ambient digital scribe, as being a way of doing that. But there are certainly other opportunities in there. Just scheduling nurses is something that is incredibly burdensome right now and leads to tremendous inefficiency.
Mm-hmm.
Every little point of improvement that we get pays multiples in dividends as we schedule. So as we look at opportunities, good example there is nurse scheduling. Can we apply AI to actually improve the
The
speed with
schedule.
which we can do, yeah, exactly, the speed and efficiency of that nurse scheduling. So very good example of a strategically aligned innovation opportunity that we're very actively pursuing at RH.
Mm-hmm.
And I can sort of stack those up. There are numerous ones of those. We talked about the digital front door and really trying to improve access by casting that broad digital net, but then also empowering our patients with access to the tools to provide self-service in a lot of ways and gain access to service and care as quickly as possible. It's those types of activities that we see as a through line from that innovation continuum I was talking about just a moment ago. So while an innovation may start at a very acute problem with RH, we believe that we can develop those ideas into something that can scale out across all of RH, but then also potentially go to industry.
Okay, that's really interesting. So these, the incubator or accelerator program that you're running, does that have in-house participation as well, or only like other
It
startups?
does. We actually, so a great example of that is we had a physician in emergency medicine who developed an application called
Mm-hmm.
Code Assist. And Code Assist essentially is a tool that provides a heads up display in the form of an iPad that guides cardiac resuscitation. There are ACLS guidelines that specify with very specific criteria what you're supposed to do when in terms of doing a resuscitation. And there are very strict documentation guidelines associated with following those steps and those guidelines. So this heads up display that we have helped develop, it essentially navigates and orchestrates the entire resuscitation event, and it documents it behind the scenes. Great example of an internal innovation that we think has real potential to save lives. Also unburdens our providers when they're in an emergency situation trying to provide care to a patient. Then also, this is not a problem that's unique to RH. This is something that we believe has potential well outside of RH.
Absolutely.